Hi everybody. So my name is Connor. As you can all tell, I'm coming to you from about maybe 2 miles from what's going to be the next European Union frontier, which is slightly concerning and a bit surreal, to be honest. When I look back now on what's going to happen in maybe an hour and a half or so, in the next couple of hours, for me, it's something that I've had a bit of cognitive dissonance from, naturally having an Irish passport, being an Irish citizen. But at the same time, you do have to look at it and understand and accept that the north of Ireland will technically be out of the European Union, which is something that is which is very concerning and very worrying. And I think Tom touched upon it as well in terms of how Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Agreement, etc., was very much a footnote in any discussion of the referendum. It's incredibly frustrating to watch back debate about the referendum, to look at what was the main issues and the topics that were discussed about. And I think the darkest and sort of most distressing Brexit chapter for me and for a lot of people was the rampant ignorance towards peace and towards the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. We're talking about pretty senior level politicians claiming that the Irish border problem could be solved by technology that didn't exist. And this complete just ignorance and complete removal of any concern about Northern Ireland and the Irish border problem. Thankfully, with sterling work by the Irish government, I think there has not been enough credit looked at that by the work of the Irish government, who really employed all the strands of the Irish diplomatic service in terms of Brussels, in terms of the Washington lobby, to make it very, very clear what the issues were in Ireland and how the EU could deal with them. And we thankfully have the Northern Ireland Protocol, which to the best of its ability stabilises this place. But nothing could stabilise Northern Ireland as much as continued membership of the European Union. And that's what I think a lot of people have to remember. No deal or no protocol will ever be as concrete or fundamental as EU membership. And I think we have to all remember that all of this agreements or protocols are simply sticky plasters to minimise damage. And I think now for the loss of citizens' rights, for me to think about freedom of movement has always been something that I've very much taken for granted. I was born in 97, so the notion that I would be stopped at the border, or the notion that I couldn't travel across frontiers, is very alien to me. And I think, ironically, in a way, the COVID crisis and the closing of borders has really illustrated to us just how privileged we all were and all are to have that ability to move freely around Europe. I live and I work in Brussels, and I can do that very easily. I can go there without paperwork, and believe me, Brussels is notoriously in terms of admin and paperwork, but I can go there without that because of virtue of being an Irish citizen and because of being a European citizen. So I think, it takes, you can easily forget that, but I think it takes a lot of hard fought, political compromise and political developments over the past decades to make that a reality. For the future of British citizens, again, I can't pretend that I know how British citizens feel tonight, because I don't. Because I will still be able to access those rights. And, that strikes me as incredibly unfair. It strikes me as, especially on young people who have not had the chance to really utilize their rights to their full experiences, and especially young people who are just about maybe going off to college for the first time or would be traveling around Europe when the pandemic subsides. It just strikes me as fundamentally very unfair. And the removal of the Erasmus scheme, which we all know doesn't have to you don't have to be a member of the EU for that to apply. So there's an ideological moving away from Europe, which is really unfair on lots of young people. And rights are something that's, and speaking as someone from Northern Ireland and about the Good Friday Agreement, rights are something that really is fundamental to the fabric of a society and fundamental to how we move forward as a society. The rights that you have by virtue not of your class or where you're from or who you are or what university you went to or what your name is. You have these rights by virtue of existing. And I think that's something that is very precious. And to lose rights is a real tragic thing. And to see millions and millions of British citizens lose rights tonight is very sad. And, you know, I've always been a pragmatist throughout the Brexit campaign, or sorry, the Brexit process. And I always hoped that, you know, cooler heads would prevail. And, you know, I was very, very happy when a deal happened. But at the same time, you reflect upon it and you look at, this is indeed one of the harshest deals that was expected to come out. And ironically, what you will see now in the next 10 or 20 years is probably Britain realigning itself very slowly but surely with Europe. And what you would have is the outcome of a soft Brexit. But that will take 20 or 30 years, which is sort of the tragedy of that. And at the end of the day, it is normal people who pay the price for that. So I think it's something that is, you know, the younger generation are rightfully aggrieved tonight, I think. But how do they take that anger and turn that into positive action? I think there's a couple of things you can look at. You can look at, how do we engage as Europeans while outside of the European Union? You know, there's still many ways to do that. You have the European Youth Parliament, which operates in many countries outside of the European Union. And the European Youth Parliament in the UK is still going from strength to strength. You have, you know, many NGOs such as New Europeans, which you can engage with. And I think the political process in Britain is incredibly frustrating at times, as is the political process all over in any country in the world. And it can often feel like you don't have an impact or a voice. But I would encourage anybody to try and engage in that on a pro-European level. And I think, you know, this isn't the end tonight of Britain's relationship with Europe. It is a new chapter. And it is a new chapter that presents many opportunities for young people to begin to realign Britain back with Europe, to understand those common values. You know, and something that strikes me as well in Northern Ireland, how we achieved sort of, you know, there wasn't a dramatic moment in Northern Ireland where we magically went from a society in conflict to a society in peace. You know, those things happen very slowly over long periods of time through minor improvements, minor agreements, incremental change, as I call it. And I think what people in Britain now have to look at is, how do we incrementally make these minor movements back towards Europe to get to the stage, you know, and it will be a long time. It's not going to happen overnight or the next decade, but it may be in the next 20 or 30 years that after a number of incremental policy moves back towards a European perspective, you begin to see a realignment between Britain and the European Union, and the European Union will have developed throughout that time as well. And Britain will always, you know, no matter what happens with the deal, Britain will always be in the European Union's regulatory orbit. They will always be on the continent of Europe. So this is not the end, as it were. Unfortunately, it's a very sad beginning, but it's a beginning where you start from a place that you will agree, we'll never go back to this place again, and you will slowly but surely begin to realign with hopefully would be membership. So listen, I know it's a very sad new year, but I want to wish you all a very happy new year. And I'm sure it's been a tough year for everybody. But I really hope 2021 will hold something better. And thanks very much, and very happy new year to everybody.